Hi. It's been a while, huh? It's been like, what, 4 years now? It's crazy, honestly. A lot can happen over the span of 4 years. But for me, well, not a whole lot. Anyways, this is the real me. My real name is Malcolm. I'm just a simple dude that loves gaming, baking, writing, and drawing in my free time. I sometimes crochet as well. You may recognize me under a familiar alias by the name Mc-Starz, a channel that I used to run back in 2020. Where did the name originate from, you ask? Well, no reason in particular. I just thought it sounded cool at the time. Also, I came up with that name when I was like 14 or something, so like, some things haven't changed. So I started this YouTube channel with the intent of wanting to get myself out there more, because I'm not sure most of you are aware, but like, I'm a pretty reserved dude. Ever since the end of my teenage years, I focused more on my studies and hobbies rather than trying to make friends back then. Because I'm a fucking nerd, I ain't ashamed to admit that. To keep things relatively short, I wanted to do something to put myself out there more. A driving force that would eventually become the catalyst for my character development. That's when I stumbled upon this little indie game known as Project Arrhythmia, a music-based bullet hell type game where you dodge projectiles on screen in the tune of a beat. While it was still in early access with an ongoing narrative and still in its infancy stage, it had a pretty robust level editor where you could create your own levels and upload them to the Steam Workshop with little to no issues. That's essentially what drove me to truly express my creativity without having to worry about showing off my real identity to the public. So, back in May of 2020, I uploaded my first level to the workshop after getting a quick feel with how accessible the level editor was to me. At the time, I felt pretty proud of showcasing my work and what I was able to accomplish just from one creation. However, looking back on it now with a fresh pair of those rose-tinted glasses, it was pretty rough. The movements were stiff and lifeless in some parts, the attacks were pretty basic, and not to mention the ugh, awkwardness of it all. But still, it encouraged me to improve with each passing level that I would put out, to further exemplify what it would meant to become a decent level creator, to showcase what I was truly capable of. That is, until I decided one day I want to push myself a little more, to really push the boundaries of what I could accomplish. So a few weeks later after I posted my first level, I published Enigma. Did I seriously record this shit with Bandit Kim? How the first part of what was going to become a 7-part series of Project Arrhythmia levels with an ongoing story. That story will later be dubbed Dark Delirium. Each level will flow into the next while still keeping up with the ongoing narrative of it all. I was partially inspired by one of my friends on Discord, who I will not mention as I wish to respect their privacy. But that would give me the idea to potentially turn this basic level to an ongoing storyline, told primarily through custom Project Arrhythmia levels created by me. Over time, I was enjoying the process of it all, planning out each dialect portion, animating the characters to give them expression and weight, not to mention getting overall feedback from a shared Discord server. I was pleasantly surprised at how much people seemed truly invested in these characters and the world building I created. Hell, one of my most popular videos on the channel ended up being the most viewed level in the series. I kinda don't understand it, yet I kinda see the reason behind its high view count. It's still completely immaculate how much traction this one level has gotten over the years, even during my absence off this platform. If this video somehow showed up in your recommended feed because of YouTube's weird algorithm, then I feel all the more embarrassed because the storyline isn't even finished. Speaking of which, and I suppose you guys deserve a better explanation, since the simple community post is not justifying my abandonment of the storyline and its project as a whole. That question being, why did I stop working on Dark Delirium? Well, that goes down to a couple obvious factors. One of them being is that I simply lost all motivation to continue work on it. Shocking, I know, considering that series alone was what sparked the fire inside to keep the flame going. However, and I'm being realistic here, looking back at my series now, it's got a lot of rough edges in terms of world building and handling of its characters, and especially the writing as a whole. I now realize that 7 parts alone was not to tell a cohesive story, nor conveying the Project Arrhythmia levels was not to tell the story that I wanted to tell due to its breakneck pacing. Even when I provide some lore videos and character studies here and there, I basically pull those from my ass just to make it seem more interesting. And I know as an aspiring writer, I can do much better than that. I am better than that. That's why I'm saying this up front to truly get my point across. I will not create Dark Delirium Part 7. It's just not going to happen, guys. Given the current state of my passion project, hence why I labeled all of my DD videos with Legacy in the titles, because that version of my story is clearly outdated, and I'm no longer happy with how those turned out. But maybe, and this is a huge maybe, if I were to bring Dark Delirium back, I give it the soft reboot treatment, by telling it through another medium of storytelling that doesn't feel extremely limiting, just provide more focus and freedom towards the characters and world building that story. I think translating that story into a book, or if I'm feeling a little crazy, an entire animated series of shorts leading into the next, just provide more focus and freedom towards the characters and world building of that story. Because I have been doing a lot of drawing of recently, but still new to the animation sphere. I'm not the best at it, but I'm still proud of my creation nonetheless. Still, It's a huge possibility given my busy work-to-life schedule, but it's still in the back burner if that passion to bring the series back ever returns. So yeah, part of me still has a deep connection towards Dark Delirium, and I do want to bring it back at some point to truly express our creativity. However, now's not the right time right now, and I hope you guys in the community can understand where I'm coming from. I just wasn't expecting this amount of traction, so I deeply apologize if I disappoint a lot of people that are really passionate to see this series get the proper conclusion it deserves. Now on to my second factor, and this is going to get a bit personal, so forgive me if I get a bit emotional. Remember how I left the community by posting my final level and saying why I can never make a comeback? Well, to recap, I ended up wronging someone in the past that still haunts me to this day. I know, it's been 4 years since then. I've learned from my wrongdoings and moved on, so why haven't I? Back then, the internet being online in general pretty much destroyed my mental state to the point where I didn't even recognize myself. When you haven't gotten out there and had a decent conversation with someone, let alone your family, it's quite easy to fall into that unhealthy mindset. I was whiny, manipulative, overly sensitive, and pretty much a dumb man-child back then. Anytime I was given a slice form of criticism, I often take it as an attack, which caused me to overthink and question myself as a person. And I know now that was incredibly childish of me, and I know I'm better than that. But back then, it was difficult to even tell myself that, let alone control my actions. I've done some pretty messed up things in the past, most of which are inexcusable, and you have every right to hate me for that. Which is why I've ultimately made the decision to step down from the internet and Discord in general to better work on myself. To try and pull myself from this deep, dark hole that I dug myself into. It wasn't easy because I was still processing everything, but it was definitely a step in the right direction for me. I knew at this point, I was no longer welcome and didn't bother to try and return. I wasn't the best person back then, I kinda still feel that way now. But I'm still focusing on talking with myself, trying to convince myself to become the best person I could possibly be. Luckily, there was a silver lining to it all. Well, that sure was depressing as fuck. Now to explain where I've been and what I've been doing during my time off this platform. So, not long after, let's say sometime in late November, I was nearing the end of what I would describe my slump era. Obviously, I had no direction, nor did I have any reason to move forward and do anything at this point. It got so concerning to the point where my family ended up getting worried about me and wanted me to have a clear mindset again. And thank God for that. Because at this point, I just couldn't keep doing this to myself. It wasn't healthy, nor was I being productive in the slightest. At that point, I really need to get my shit together. So as soon as the new year came around, I did what I thought I could never do, and that was applying for college. Well, a technical college at that, since I didn't want to spend too much of that money I had been saving up from work on a career path that I wouldn't stick to. I did want to become a baker at one point, and that was partially what I was going for at the time. I had taken a 5-month baking and pastry course at the same technical college. I learned some new techniques that I normally wouldn't get online. And you know what? I felt pretty damn proud for pushing myself to finally do something in my life that was worth pursuing. So much so that not long after, I got a part-time job at a nearby cupcake shop to keep that grind going. Things seem like they're finally going on the right path, right? Right? Well, I ended up quitting that job, mainly due to the lack of communication and the fact that I was simply repeating the same menial task over and over, which wasn't helpful in what I was trying to achieve. And the thing I forgot to mention during that depressing part is that I lack self-confidence. I still haven't developed the motivation nor did I feel any confidence in what I was actually doing. Keep in mind, once you choose a certain career you want in your life, you have to stick to it through and through, no matter how daunting or overwhelming it might be. That's probably where I'm not where I want to be in life yet. Becoming a baker requires serious commitment and years of experience, so I've always had to ask myself, what are you planning on selling? Do you even know how to do that? How do you plan on getting there? You got the income for that? Is it even going to be worth it in the long run? What if you go bankrupt before you even begin? Why do you suck so much? And clearly, it was still easy for me to fall into that unhealthy habit of overthinking, since that was still a negative trait that I've yet to get rid of. Because at this point, even if I were to actually commit and pursue my dreams of becoming an honest-to-God baker, then what happens now? Do I just stop caring about my hobbies altogether? Will I even have time for anything at this point? Because time for me is sacred, and I wish to enjoy the things that I love doing the most, like drawing, writing, and quite possibly getting decent at playing the piano. Not that I want to abandon that career path entirely, like more so taking a break on it until I develop enough income and the motivation to come back to it later, you know? Because I'm currently 24, and I'm still young, and I got time to figure things out. So I want to take the time right now to just settle down, take a breather, and enjoy myself in the moment while I'm still alive. So to recap the events leading up to this, I booked my very first solo trip to Japan of 2023 last fall. I've always had the passion to travel and admire the many sights this planet has to offer. I'm glad I took it upon myself to do so. Definitely one of the most memorable experiences that I'll definitely never forget anytime soon. I also switched jobs since I was a deli worker for almost 3 years, and one day I told myself I wasn't having it no more. From subpar pay to rude employers, I took my leave and became a laundry worker for a retirement home instead. Again, not where I want to be in life yet, but at least I was still working knowing I was slowly but surely building enough income for a bright future. Last year, I finally made the big decision to finally start driving and apply for my license. After a failed test, I ended up passing the second attempt and I couldn't feel any proud. My dad especially, he helped find me a used car and I used my own money that I've been saving up to afford it. It was daunting for me at first, but with enough practice, I eventually got the hang of it. I was like, actually conform to societal standards of becoming a decent human being? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oh, and I also had my first one-on-one therapy session, I guess. It was a bit uncomfortable for me, seeing as I wasn't used to opening up, like, at all. I'll admit that I did feel a little bit relieving to speak out my frustrations to someone that was professional in the field, but I was still glad to even seek out help in the first place. But that didn't stop there, since I also decided I needed to truly become independent to better work on myself. Since at the time, even starting this channel, I had lived with my dad and stepmom for quite a while. Even if I had my own room and helped them pay rent every month, it just simply wasn't enough for me. I wanted to give them their own space, and I had just turned 24. Since I had just got my license, I felt a bit more responsible and managed to find a cheap studio apartment that was in another small city about half an hour from where they lived. It certainly wasn't easy getting to this point, but damn it, was it worth it. I couldn't be any more thankful for my family for helping me move all my stuff and getting me to where I am now. So, Dad, if you're watching this right now, I really appreciate your help and I thank you. Even if you can't really see my face right now, but trust me, it's your son. But yeah, I'm now living on my own with the same amount of income right now to support myself thanks to a new job with much better pay. Even if the space here is rather small since it is a studio, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. What really matters is the steps I finally took in the seemingly endless staircase I call life. I couldn't be any more proud of myself. Even if it doesn't mean a lot to others, it sure as hell means a lot to me. Given how awkward and immature I could be at times, I can still look past those mistakes and recontextualize them into something more positive to look forward to. Because that's one of the key steps I made for myself to easily get by every day. Whatever happened in the past, happened. Nothing we can really do in this instance other than to move forward. And to better understand why I did what I did, so I can reassure myself that will never happen again. Because at the end of the day, we're all still human beings. Just cogworks in a massive machine that need to function and exist in order to create a functioning, environment ecosystem. Was that even a good analogy? Where the fuck was I even going with that? Anyways, there's one last thing that I want to share before I sign off this channel for good. You guys probably stuck around long enough to deserve some context. Where do I go from here? Well, seeing as I'm still taking the time now to simply relax, I had this idea in mind. Not saying it'll happen anytime soon, so don't get your hopes up, please. If I ever were to make a return, it will most certainly take place in a new channel. If possible, I would like to start over and really express myself more in a way where it doesn't feel secretive or awkward. Just casual gameplay styles, I can even share more of my artwork, and talk about things going on in my life currently. But of course, if I'm still no longer welcome here, then feel free to let me know, and I'll happily remain on this platform for good for the sake of everyone else. One thing certain for sure is that I'm still no longer going to pursue that game nor return to its community anytime soon. It just wouldn't feel fair otherwise for the people I've wronged in the past, so it's perfectly understandable if I'm still no longer welcome there, and they have every right to feel justified if that is the case. I think I've said everything that needed to be said. If by any chance I may have missed something, or any important details, do let me know down below and I'll try to answer with full honesty. But if you're somehow new to this channel or brought here by certain videos, do know this project is long since abandoned and will continue to remain that way. So feel free to unsubscribe since there's nothing left, just an empty shell of what could have been had I made better decisions back then. Because at this point, there's literally no reason why I'm at 30 subs right now. That makes no sense at all. Please help me. Of course, all my videos will still be available given how outdated they are, and I clearly wasn't the best at proper communication, but I just keep them available anyways because in a way, they play a huge part of my life and as a step reminder of what I could easily accomplish if I had put in a little more effort. Anyways, I chose to balance the good with the bad because it's a part of me and who I am as a person. So at this point, I have nothing to hide apart from my face. I would feel incredibly ashamed of myself if I chose to delete or private every one of those videos. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just dropped by to explain everything, what I've been up to, and where to go from here. I'm doing alright guys, I promise. Much more than I was 5 years ago. Even if I'm not where I want to be in life yet, I'm still in a much better position now. So I think that's account for something in terms of me moving forward. I've still got ways to go and more to accomplish, but of course, I gotta take things one step at a time. So, before I go, let me just say this to those that are quite possibly struggling out there. Now, I'm not professional at this when it comes to giving advice, so this mainly comes down to experience, but I believe it can still be applied to everyday tasks. So, treat every goal, no matter how small, as a stepping stone. Don't worry about time, just worry about getting it done. And once you inevitably reach that top, you'll feel way more accomplished and wonder how you even got to that point, because you got to remind yourself where you initially started, no matter how low. At the end of the day, we've all got to start from somewhere. We all progress naturally, and there's no rush to do so. If I can get to this point, then I believe you guys can too. So, yeah, I wish you guys all the luck in the world, and remember to take care of yourselves, okay? I believed in myself, and I believe in you too. Even if I don't know who I'm even talking to at this point. Anyways, it's time for me to drop one final send off to this project. But when one project ends, another one begins. Take care, everyone, and have a blessed day. Okay, now I'll go back to hiding.
What can I say to you? I remember how it felt to take that throne. All that it meant. And all that it did not. A god of war. A god of pain. Of suffering. Of destruction. And the one said I chase redemption that I know I can never deserve. What does that make me? God of fools. A god of hope. And all else is lost. You lost everything. And everyone. You begin. There is no forgiving you. You chose! Chose. But now, should I, this same man, should I sit, take, proclaim, lead, place myself into service? You are cruel and arrogant and selfish. You have always been more than others saw. You are more